Tap into timely advice from experts as we discuss all things leadership and technology. You'll get the inside scoop on better business practices, from making the most of your technology to leading a company with your head and heart. Pull up a seat with Marco CEO Jeff Gow and President Doug Albrechts. Let's Tech.
Welcome back to Let's Tech. This episode is about doing good, and doing good in creative ways. For your organizations using technology to do good, I think we'll have some best practices here for you today and hopefully share with you how we've continued to do good in this pandemic. This year has led organizations to rethink how we do lots of things, and giving back to our communities is certainly one of them. Historically, our employees have volunteered for causes, a lot of times on site, and actively coming together to do good stuff. But it's different this year. We know it looks a lot different. And it's been fun to see the creative ways organizations are using technology to do good. One of our leaders today, behind our internal efforts, is going to join me on this podcast to share some of the best practices we've gleaned from others, some new, some non-traditional ways, but all in an effort to have some fun, raise some money for good causes. So today our guest, Kimberly Shoberg, is Marco's Learning and Development Coordinator. She brings love for teaching, developing processes, helping others grow. She serves as one of Marco's corporate trainers, currently leads all of the continuous improvement and DISC profile training for employees. With a passion for Marco's culture and doing good, she also leads our community giving and United Way campaigns and our Gold Standard Volunteer Program for employees. She has a background in communication and education and worked previously for 10 years in special education. So please join me in welcoming Kimberly to our podcast today. Hi, Kimberly.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Happy holidays.
Thank you. You too.
So, thanks again for being our guest. And you and I get to work together lots on a lot of projects, but usually around doing all kinds of good things, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Which is the fun part. I'm always kind of jealous of your job.
I have a lot of fun doing it.
You're probably jealous of yourself.
Yeah.
So anyway, so today let's just have a little dialogue about the things that we've been doing and the things you've been doing to get creative and still keep giving first and foremost as a part of our culture here at Marco. So how do organizations rethink good in a virtual work environment? How should they be kind of thinking about that? Because the blanket idea of technology, now we're almost getting used to it, these Zoom meetings and WebEx and Teams. But what kinds of things are you seeing that is helping do this good work, even though we're virtual?
Yeah, absolutely. So even prior to the pandemic, Marco has been a growing organization, and we've always been tasked with the mission to how do we reach all of our employees and get them involved into our charitable giving efforts and have them feel included as well. And so when we came to the pandemic, it was time to actually put quick focus on it. And so we decided that we had to really look at how we could switch things and really take the opportunity to include other employees or all of our employees virtually. And so we really did a lot of new things this year.
It's been really fun to watch. And, we didn't forget about a lot of things. And I kept thinking to myself, gee, I wonder if we're going to do this, or I wonder if we're going to do that. And you know what? We did. And also it was kind of interesting when we got our employee survey back this year, there were a lot of comments about thank you for continuing some of those traditions. So, we've done these things that could have been limited. They'd been easy not to do. But what are some of the traditions that have continued despite these limitations? Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Because they sure are fun, and I'm glad we're doing them.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year especially, we are engaging in the Salvation Army bell ringing. And so this has always been a popular event for all of our offices because we all can connect with our coworkers in a fun way on company time while doing good in the community. And so we are continuing those efforts again this year. And also, we did our Day of Caring through United Way. And so, again, we chose outdoor activities to help bring our employees together and let them participate and volunteer. But some employees don't necessarily like going outside. And so we had them choose to sign up to make cards of encouragement for virtual, in a virtual setting for Meals on Wheels. And so we passed out cards to individuals, and so some of them chose to actually set up WebEx trainings where they could get together and make cards and share and joke and laugh while they created these fun and encouraging cards. We also had a lot of requests for additional volunteerism and ways to get involved in our communities. And so actually this year we had a unique opportunity to go out and help an individual who is part of our St. Cloud community and package up books for Africa and get those sent over. So we had 12 volunteers that came together, and you actually came as well, didn't you, Jeff?
That was super fun. It was interesting when this gentleman approached us. He said, I've got some books. I like a lot of books. And I know this gentleman, Bossy EO, good friend of mine from over at St. Cloud State, recently retired. But Bossy is a book reader. And when he said a lot of books, I thought, well, that could mean a lot. But I didn't think, when he said a 2-car garage full, I didn't really think he meant 2-car garage full in part of his basement.
In part of the basement, too. Yes.
What a good project that was, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so thanks for doing that. And that was kind of a new one, wasn't it? So tell us about some of these other new ideas. I'm looking here at some of these that we've done, and I thought, boy, they're kind of fun. And maybe you could talk a little bit about what some of those were that we implemented that historically, and I remember doing these physically, but now how do we do them virtually?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say they're actually old ideas that, again, we had to put a new virtual spin on them this year. And so the first one was the sucker pull that we did this year. And so there again, that was one that we would pick some of our larger offices and we would ship out these big domes of suckers, right? And at the end of the suckers,
lollipops,
sucker, right?
Yep.
Yes. And so at each of them, those sucker stems, there was a color. And so depending on what the employee pulled, they would either get a fun treat that went along with our United Way campaign theme, because that's typically when we do these sucker pulls, or they would get a piece of Marco swag, or even there were some grand prizes in there as well. And so it was very well received. It was $1 per sucker that the employee paid to do the pull.
Those are usually at the reception area, because I remember you would walk by and you felt obligated. Gee, I got 6 grandkids. That means I've got to get at least 6, right?
Yes.
So, I remember it was fun to participate in.
Yeah, and actually we also had a collectible koozie that was in there that each year goes along with our campaign theme. And so a lot of individuals wanted those koozies. So they were coming back saying, hey, I want that, so they kept participating until they got one. So, but there was limitations to it. So it was only those larger offices and those employees in those offices that got to participate. So this year with COVID, we knew we had to take it virtually so that we could include everyone, because everyone is working remotely in offices and that kind of thing. So we really had an amazing opportunity here, because now we were not only including those individuals out of those larger offices, but the smaller ones too, and individuals that worked out in the field. So we actually increased our sucker pull participation by 4 times. So we did 4 times as much.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, do we have is this 100 or 500 or 2,000? I have no idea.
Yeah, so typically we would sell around 400 to 600 suckers, and this year we did over 2,400. So, yeah, absolutely.
I bet we're going to be doing that in the future.
Yeah, I think it takes the first year for the idea to catch on, and then word spreads. And so I anticipate that the participation will be even greater next year.
Did you still give koozies away?
We gave those koozies away. Yep.
Totally awesome. What else? What are some other new ideas?
Yeah, and so Toys for Tots is another big program that we love to participate in. And so our employees are very generous about bringing in toys and dropping them off at our physical boxes that are in our offices, right? But here again, many of our employees are working out of home offices. And so we had to decide, well, how are we going to do this differently? How can we have participation, or how can we make this easier? And so we decided to put together a virtual kit, if you will, for each of the offices. So at each of our offices, we have a gold standard contact. And so they were able to personalize their toy drive for their local organization and set up basically a virtual registry. And then they sent out a link to their coworkers and said, hey, here's a way that you can go ahead and shop right from your desk or your home office and select a toy, and it'll be donated and delivered right to that organization. So the employee didn't even have to go to the store to make a donation for the local toy drive.
What was fun on that? I did that one. And usually that would be, I saw it as kind of fun experience, different experience this year, but actually it was easier for me to do that. And because of that, I'd like to say I always did a good job with it in the past, but I did a better job this year, meaning I donated more toys this year because it was so simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Took just a couple of seconds.
What else? Anything else that we should know about? that was kind of new this year?
Yeah, so here again, we always like to run a food drive, and so very difficult to collect those items. So we were able to set up in our internal site here at Marco a way for employees to go ahead and just make a monetary donation, and that was very well received. I was very happy to see how many employees participated in that, and I know that we'll continue that again going forward in years to come. So, and then we always have a very fun event that we have here. It's our virtual key box, and so that's very popular, and employees look forward to that, and so we get a lot of participation in that each and every time.
I might ask you more about that in a little bit because I kind of like that one.
Yeah, I know you do.
And then anything else that we've done?
Yeah, and it's not just even our organization. We have other organizations in our community that have done some amazing things to make the change, right? And so we have Centricare here in our community, and they have a very successful silent auction with baskets. And so they love this event each and every year. But because of COVID, they were unable to set that up. And so they decided to take it virtually. And so they literally did a 180 spin in a split second, and they pulled it off in a virtual way. So probably very similar to some of the things that we have done this year. But we need to communicate how those events are going to happen. And so we use a lot of email, voicemail, and some creative videos, which we have roped you into to be part of, and you've done a great job. So we've had a lot of fun there too.
What do you think? So we're doing these things, we're getting virtual, we're doing things outside when we can, and we're trying to keep the spirit of giving front and center and as a part of our culture. What do you think kind of drives those results?
Yeah, so I'm definitely passionate about including leadership. And so whenever you have leadership involved, you definitely see more participation from employees and a lot more excitement too. So it's really important to make sure that we have a lot of fun and maybe even gamify things a little bit.
What does that mean?
Well,
gamify?
It can mean a few different things, but even last year when we did the
suicide
thank you
night?
Yes,
yeah,
the Marco Game Night is what I'm trying
Yeah.
to think of. So the Marco Game Night, and we raised a lot of money for mental health and suicide prevention, and so that's one way of gamifying things in ways, but I'm not sure if that's the cool way of saying it.
I have to interrupt. I think, did I throw out the first pitch on that one? Was that one of those?
You did.
And I believe, I don't know if it was exactly in the strike zone, but it wasn't embarrassing. I mean, and I had a lot of fun doing that. But you talk about being nervous about something.
Yeah.
You'd think, can you not throw a pitch at least in the general area for the catcher? And I guess it was. I was a little more worried about it than I needed to be.
I was glad it was you and not me.
I would have liked it to be you and not me.
It would have been bad.
But anyway, yeah. So some of this gamifying, and then what other things do you see for engagement to get people kind of moving out there a little bit? Then I know you talk us into company matches from time to time too, don't you?
We do, yeah. And matter of fact, with our toy drive, that was another thing. Not only did we make it easier, but we did a corporate match. So for every toy that's donated this year by a Marco employee, there will be a $10 match from Marco for that donation.
See, and I think as we think about our investing, and especially when the need's probably greater than it's ever been, is sometimes during this situation with COVID, we find some of our expenses have actually maybe went down in some categories,
Yes.
and maybe you can rethink about them a little bit in other categories, because some of these events have been canceled, so they don't hold them, and so the easy thing to do would be to just not participate, right? The other thing to do, and I think it's been a better way to do it, is to extend some of those dollars and repurpose them into some of these things. Another perspective. So often as we sit here as a little bit larger company, people might say, well, you have more resources, you have more people. But even for smaller companies, a lot of these things can be fit to size, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, I don't think we need to have a sucker pull or some of these secret prizes and stuff. We don't have to overthink those, right?
No.
So as organizations look to get people involved, what are some of the things that have worked well for us, for you when you're doing this?
Yeah. So again, get that leadership involved, and also make it a competition maybe. And so 2 years ago, for one of our United Way campaigns, we decided that to increase employee participation, we were going to make a competition out of it. And so we divided up our organization into regions and picked a leader for each of those regions. And then they all signed up. We had to make sure that they were on board with us. And then we advertised to our employees that, hey, every region that increases their participation or gets the most participation, what that means is one of your leader that's representing your region will have to dress up in a space age costume and hang out on a very busy street and wave to the individuals going by. And so we did it. And so the top three regions that won were Fargo and Sioux Falls and St. Cloud. And so, Jeff, you had to put on a space costume, didn't you?
Out on Division Street, yes.
Yeah, you were an astronaut for a little bit.
I was an astronaut. And I got people to honk and wave, and they're thinking, what the heck is he doing out there? Well, if they just knew, right?
Right.
What it took to get there, right?
Yeah, and that is so important because when employees can see that their leadership is having fun with an event, you have buy-in from your employees as well, and they're excited about it too. And so next year, they're looking for the next kind of stunt that we're going to pull and are excited about the next campaign.
There's one other competition that comes to mind is when we had the tug of wars. And I remember I was going to be really smart about it, and I engaged my friend who's the head coach over at St. Cloud State, their football team, to get some of the players come over. And I remember thinking that was pretty fun. But the point was, that was all about having a little fun with it, right?
Yes. Yeah, we had some side buzz going on about that tug of war that was happening. So, yeah, absolutely. Well, so, Jeff, I feel like I've been doing quite a bit of talking here. So do you mind if I turn the tables on you a little bit?
That sounds like you're going to do that, whether I answer that yes or no, right?
Yeah. So. Well, I know you've led this company and been passionate about our culture, and which I greatly appreciate. But you often give a lot of credit to Gary and Dave, who founded Marco. But you also have been a key to cultivating our culture and very active in our efforts to do good. So I'd like to point out, so recently we had Pat Day, and it's been a fun peer-to-peer recognition that we do internally. Can you tell us where that idea came from and how it works?
Well, I like that one so well. Mm-hmm. And often it comes up as, this takes a lot of work. And it kind of does. This one is a little bit bigger one, but it's mostly scaled to the size of your company. So either, regardless of whether you're a smaller business or a larger business, you can pull this off. But PAT stands for Peer Appreciation and Thanks. Did I get that right?
You sure did.
So what it does is this is a peer-to-peer recognition. It gets people saying nice things about their coworkers and their teammates. And so 13 years ago is a way for us to host kind of a company-wide event, and we created Pat Day. And basically what happens, if I recognize you, let's just say Kimberly, for doing a good job, it costs me $1. And for that $1, there'll be a treat. That's a peer appreciation and thanks. I might even say peer appreciation and treats, maybe part of Pat. And so you get what you're going to receive with that is what nice comment I made about you, and you're going to get a treat on the other end. And the exchange takes place. And so this year, I believe we had over, 8,000 people doing it, or 8,000 Pats, right?
Yes,
something like that.
8,600.
Is that what it was?
Yes,
8,600.
Yep.
And I think I ask you every time, I go, well, how did we do in that? And I'm always just amazed. 8,600 pure appreciations going back and forth between team members. Now, that's just not a good thing for raising money for a good cause, but it's also a good thing to do as part of a culture, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Tell me, what did we have to do to adjust to make that work virtually? How did that work? Because I just happened to be, seeing it like I normally do, and it came out, and I was glad we were doing it.
Yep.
But what happened there different?
Yeah, so if you can imagine, 8,600 messages and 8,600 treats. And so that's a lot to package and get organized. And so typically what we do is we would package up those treats and then send them to our offices. And then again, our Gold Standard ambassador would pass those out to the employees. But this year we would be shipping those to home addresses. And so we had to change that a little bit to kind of offset the cost of shipping charges and that kind of thing. So make that smaller. And so this year, all of our employees will be getting one special treat to go along with their PAT packages, or their PAT messages, I should say.
Yep.
And so we've modified it that way. Also, to kind of make it a win-win for every PAT that an individual would submit, their name is now going to go into a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card. So that's why we decided to try and make it a little bit fun still for all of the employees and benefit everyone that's participating.
I could see that being a practice too, because I physically have helped when somebody said this is a lot of work. I'm going, well, I better go find out what that means. So I've helped package those we'll call them PAT packages,
Yes.
for lack of a better term, which includes those nice notes and those nice treats going to each person. And it is quite a process.
Right.
But there again, if smaller companies are listening today and you look at that and go, well, how can we do that logistically? It just scales.
Right.
So maybe it's 100, maybe it's 50, but and it's fun to do. And again, while you're doing it, it's just a nice cultural fun exercise, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, one thing I noticed from year to year whenever we were passing out those packages was that individuals weren't necessarily interested about what was inside the bag of, the types of treats and that kind of thing. They were really most interested in that piece of paper that they pulled out where they got to see all of their PAT messages. And so even though we've made some tweaks this year, I'm interested to see the reception that we're going to get because I think people are most excited about those messages that'll be coming their way.
Super good.
Yeah. So, Jeff, I know you're very passionate about doing good in the community. So why is it important to you as a leader to support these efforts?
Well, first of all, I think that culture is something that gets created over time, and it's not a one-time event. And so by doing numerous things that are good for the employees, good for the communities, and quite frankly, they're evidence of a good corporate citizen, I think that consistency certainly is a big deal in presenting that kind of an image. And I think some of the advice I'd probably give to others that are listening right now, whether you're a larger organization or a smaller organization, it really does start with leadership. And I think that's a commitment to a part of your organizational culture. It's your personality of your organization. And I think by setting the example yourself, and if you just start with the idea that if you put your resources where your heart is, I think that's another good way to set the tone for the organization. So employee engagement, getting others involved. Many things that get effectively executed in leadership involve others, like always. And so if you want to sustain something and you want to make it long-term and a part of your culture, the more people you get involved, the better. And so that's super fun to do that because it doesn't just become giving back per se, but it becomes a fun engagement. It becomes a fun thing to do. So those are the kind of things I think really bode well for being committed to being a good corporate citizen and doing good stuff. So with that, Kimberly, I got to tell you, I really do enjoy all the fun stuff we get to do and all the good stuff we get to do. So thanks for being my guest today. I really do appreciate that. And thanks for all the good work you do as a part of the Mark organization.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks so much for having me today.
Kimberly, it's always a pleasure, so thanks again. As we wrap up this episode of Let's Tech, we remind you, if you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. And also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. We'd sure appreciate that too. So until next time, Let's Tech, and a very happy holidays to you and your families.